And I want to talk about another place that openness touches what we do and try to tie it together here. Imagine going to the doctor and telling the doctor that you have pains. And the doctor says, tell me more about these pains. And you say, well, I'd rather not. I'd really rather you just help them go away. It's too inconvenient for me to tell you about my pains, or I'm worried about privacy issues of confiding in you additional information about what's going on with me. I just need help, and I'd like help from you, please. You're a professional, so give it to me. It's kind of a ludicrous sounding proposition. And yet, in education, a lot of times it's what we do with our students. We know our students scored a 63 on the last test. What else do we know? We don't know much else. And yet we're tasked with trying to diagnose and prescribe and support and help them in their learning when we really have very, very little information about what's actually going on. So I want to talk about data for just a minute. Now, in this Google search, I've misspelled the word football. And in red here, Google has asked me, did you mean football? How many of you have seen this little red suggestion? Yeah, if you type like me. Between not being able to spell and not being able to type, I see this quite a bit. So the way that Google powers that is really interesting, the way that that function works. It doesn't work by taking the misspelled word and going to a dictionary and looking to see what's close. What Google does is, it turns out that 45 million people have typed that in there wrong. And then when the page came back up and they didn't see what they wanted, they realized they typed it wrong, and so they were careful and they typed it in correctly. And so Google just keeps records of when people typed this in, very shortly after that, they typed this in. Okay, so there's no intelligence or artificial anything to it. It's just they gather tons of data about the way people use their search tool. And when somebody searches for that, and then 3 seconds later immediately searches for that next thing, they know that you probably meant that. Notice they didn't say, did you misspell it? Did you make some kind of typing error? They just say, did you mean? Because watching other people, it looks like that's what they meant. They gather tons of data that they use this way. Amazon.com, of course, is able to make all these recommendations for you. It does that by looking at every book that you've ever looked at, every book that you ever bought. And if you've ever bought for your kids and then you log in and it says, hey, we think Justin will love Barbie as Rapunzel, then you think, yeah, that's right, I bought those Barbie DVDs for my kid, right? But they gather so much information about you, and they use it to provide this kind of service to you. Of course, Netflix does the same kind of thing, if you're a Netflix user. This is almost viewable. It's good and dark in here. This is a screenshot of, well, for 10,000 bonus points, anybody? What this is a screenshot of? Who said that? World of Warcraft. Is that you, Ms. Bunderson? Yes. Very good. World of Warcraft. So here are, like 200 people all crammed in a cave, and they're planning. They're getting ready to go on a raid of some kind together. But they're all in here. They're all talking to each other. They're all about to engage in some kind of joint activity. And World of Warcraft is recording that they're all there together. They're all talking to each other. They're all about to engage in some kind of joint activity. And it's going to use that information at some point in the future to try to provide a better service to each of these students. So in the case of Google, in the case of Netflix, in the case of Amazon, in the case of games like World of Warcraft, we have these organizations that are recording each and every interaction we have with the system, recording it, storing it, analyzing it, and then using it to try to provide a higher level of service to us instead of just, the doctor, it hurts, make it better. They're trying to find out more detail, trying to understand more deeply, and trying to provide better service. How many of you have a Smith's reward card? Or a reward card from some other grocery store? Why are they willing to give you coupons? Why are they willing to take 10% off when you scan your little card? Because when you scan your little card, then they're able to attach that purchase to you as a person. They're able to learn more about what you buy and what you're interested in. And then when they print coupons for you, they can know, gosh, Justin, I'm really picking on Justin. Justin buys ice cream every 6 weeks. It's week 5.5. It's time to print some ice cream coupons for Justin. Right? They can personalize all the interactions they have with you. They can make them more specific and more useful and more valuable to you because they know a little bit more about you.
Justin purchases ice cream about every 6 minutes.
more often than every 6 weeks. He's a man after my own heart. If I had a dime for every ice cream Justin and I had eaten together, I'd be a rich man. So even the grocer, I want to argue, does a better job of figuring out clever ways to capture data about the people who they work with and provide better service to them than we do as educators. And just imagine as educators if we had access to more information about our students, to more data about what they're doing, what they're not doing, when they're doing it, how much more specific, individualized help we could give them if we had that kind of information. Now, I want to let you take a minute and soak in this picture. This picture never gets old. The more you look at it, the more beautiful it is, really. Here's a guy who really wishes he had something. He has it, and he's just failed to realize that he has it. First time I saw this picture, it had a caption that said, "I wish somebody would invent something that could keep the sun out of your eyes." So I think BYU Independent Study and a number of other people around the country and around the world have started to understand, hey, wait a minute. You know, the thing about Amazon, about Netflix, about Google, about World of Warcraft, the reason those guys are all able to capture so much data is because everything that their users do is online. And every time they click something or go somewhere, we could record that and store it. Well, it turns out that independent study happens online, largely. So there's some opportunities here for us to capture more data, to learn more about our students, and be able to provide more customized, individualized service to them and support for them in their learning. And independent study is actually looking at some systems right now to support that and make it easier and better for us to do, but I'm not going to steal any thunder. Now, what kind of data are we talking about? We're talking about when did students log in? When did they read? When did they watch the video? When did they do their work? How long were they logged in for it? Did they only stay on the page of this 20-minute video for 3.5 minutes? Well, that's instructive. That tells me something. What pathway did they take as they moved through this course? Did they do the assessment before they even bothered reading the content that was supposed to come ahead of it? On the tests, you know, item by item, how are my test items working? There's so much data we could be gathering that currently everybody in the world, essentially, users or our students log in and they click and we don't capture any of that data. It just flows out the back door. We don't hold on to it or leverage it in any way. But the times are changing. There's an opportunity for us to take information about our own curricula or curricula that we've redesigned from OER, watch students use them, and as that curriculum gets used, look at that performance data from students, both to help us figure out how to support them, to personalize our interactions with them, but also to evaluate our own curriculum and figure out how's my curriculum working, which parts of it are effective, which parts do students check out on or they always skip. And all of this can feed back into redesign of that curriculum again, which can provide us more data, which can let us redesign again in this kind of feedback loop, which is very, very exciting if you're interested in issues like continuous quality improvement. So I think we're doing okay on time. I think I've about caught us up. So just let me summarize again by saying that I think openness is interesting, and I think it should be interesting to all of us. A, because it clearly increases the level of access that we have and that students have to a wide range of educational material that can be useful for them if it's used effectively. And two, that it increases what, for lack of a better term, we might call local control. If I've purchased a textbook or if I've licensed some curriculum from an online provider and I find there's a problem with it, I don't have permission to change anything. Now I can tell students, oh, just ignore chapter 2, I'm going to provide you another handout over top of that, but that's kind of kludgy. And now I've got 2 things I have to keep track of. I can't just go in and make the change to the weakness that I've identified in the material. That local control that's provided to us by these OERs, I think, is really quite important. So I want to close by suggesting to you that the more open that we all are in our own practice, and remember openness being about being generous and being giving and sharing, as BYU Independent Study has started doing in its open courseware pilot, the better education will be, the less expensive it will be, the more efficient it will be, et cetera, et cetera. I think openness is about sharing, education is about sharing, And the more we increase our commitment here, the better job we will do. Thank you very much.